This is 10 Eyewitness News. First at 5 with Georgina Lewis.
Good evening. The Prime Minister has spent the day struggling to put Peter Dutton's leadership challenge behind him, with 10 of his front bench ministers offering their resignations. In a further sign, Malcolm Turnbull's government is far from unified. The phones have been ringing hot as both sides try to shore up support ahead of a looming second ballot. Jonathan Lee joins us from Canberra. Jono, has the PM done anything to save his job?
Well, Georgie, the Prime Minister claims he has shored up his support even further. 5 members of his cabinet team who apparently voted against him yesterday and offered to resign have now apparently re-pledged their support. Of course, for Malcolm Turnbull, that means he has 5 extra numbers. For Peter Dutton, he no longer needs 7, but he needs 12 votes to oust him as Prime Minister. But of course, everyone's loyal until they have a new master. Flanked by his money men turned guardsmen, the Prime Minister draws on hope from past victories.
Due to the charm of Matthias Cormann and his colleagues in the Senate, the impossible has been achieved.
Left to announce his big business tax cut is dead, but not him, not yet anyway. 2 key power brokers pledging they won't slip in the knife.
I support the Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull.
This is my leader. There you go.
And I'm ambitious for him.
The PM with an exhausted smile, knowing his executioner is working to pick up the 7 votes needed to oust him.
Are you working the phones?
Of course I am. I'm speaking to colleagues.
All but confirming on radio, another leadership tilt looms.
You don't go into a ballot believing that you can lose, and if I believe that a majority of colleagues support me, then I would consider my position.
When are they going to dump you?
Labor happily forcing cabinet ministers to pledge their loyalty.
And yes, I do. And I also believe deeply and strongly in the record of this government.
And I have given the Prime Minister my assurance that he has my support.
That after both voted for Peter Dutton. In all, 3 cabinet ministers and 2 junior ministers have now offered their resignation, the PM inviting them to stay on, and if you believe it, changing their mind.
Well, my understanding is that they're offering to back the Prime Minister and stay in the ministry.
3 others are apparently considering their futures, but not Senator Fierravanti-Wells, who's resigned having spent months trying to get Julie Bishop dumped as deputy for someone more conservative, but didn't tell her.
No, I wasn't aware of that.
And as I said, the genie's out of the bottle. I'm really not sure where this goes. It's very hard to put it back in.
When you're a dead man walking, you're a dead man walking.
Right now, Malcolm Turnbull is just trying to make it to the weekend, where he hopes the inevitable phone polls will prove Peter Dutton isn't as popular amongst voters as many in his party think.
In other nations, they deal with this problem by knocking someone on the head. We don't in Australia, and this happens.
All this as New Zealand's deputy visits. Don't fear, he's told.
Nothing's changed.
Canberra apparently
A sea of stability and calm.
rapidly running off the rails. Now, tomorrow is the last sitting day for 3 weeks, which means if there's going to be a push, it will likely happen then. Malcolm Turnbull is also heading overseas at the end of the month on a 5-nation tour of Asia. If that goes ahead, remains to be seen. Of course, it may end up happening with a new Prime Minister. Georgie.
Thank you, Jonathan Lee in Canberra. Before the sun was even up, Peter Dutton was hitting the airwaves trying to sell his prime ministerial vision for Australia. He says he wants to help families and businesses struggling with power bills, but voters should expect a dose of hardcore conservative values too. Phoebe Bowden reports.
From Queensland cop to potential PM, Peter Dutton wants to win your heart, starting by slashing your power bill.
I think one of the things that we could do straight away in this next billing cycle is take the GST off electricity bills for families.
While it's likely not actually possible to carve out an exception just for families, if that policy went ahead for all Aussies, it would cost the government nearly $8 billion.
That would be a budget blower, an absolute budget blower.
Peter Dutton also said he'd like a royal commission into power prices.
And I'm pleased that Peter Dutton is raising some of the same issues we are.
He hit the radio waves in Victoria this morning, a place where he's looking to improve his popularity, especially after claiming earlier this year that Melburnians were too scared to go out because of African gangs. He's also controversially suggested white South African farmers deserve special help. Peter Dutton is likely to drive an agenda that plays to his strengths, taking a tough stance on immigration, terrorism and crime. Some of his biggest supporters will push hard right values.
My Conservative base has been very, very concerned about the direction of the government.
In her resignation letter to Malcolm Turnbull, she takes aim at him for abandoning Conservative Liberal values, legalising same-sex marriage and his position on China. But it's not just policy that Peter Dutton will have to navigate. He's painfully aware he needs to work on his popularity with the public.
It's nice to be in front of the cameras where I can smile. On
radio today, he stumbled on the same question that's tripped up Malcolm Turnbull in the past.
What's your favourite AC/DC song?
Mate, this is the one where it catches you out.
After nearly 2 decades in Parliament, he should know it's a long way to the top if you want to be PM. Phoebe Bowden, 10 Eyewitness News.